My part-time savage was me running like 50 miles a week. What I used to do, and what I do now, is I got to a point, I'd be running, and I was like, okay, man, we could do 10 miles today. I get to 10 miles, but oh no. That fucking demon that I let out every morning that walks the streets at night, he comes and says, hey, no, bitch, not today, man. There's somebody out there that you don't know, have never met in your entire life, that is doing 12, 13, 14. You're going to do another one. And when you meet them, you ain't getting ready. So, Goggins kept on running. So that's where the 40% thing comes in. It comes in when you're in suffer mode and you say, I'm not going to quit. You're forcing your brain now to operate on a level it's not used to, but then it becomes used to it. In times of need, even the hardest person forgets how badass they are. So I've been through a lot in my life. When you're going through a hard time right now, you forget all the hard time you endured. So the cookie jar is a reminder that, oh, I can get through this hard time right now, but you got to take a second or two to reach into the mental cookie jar. You got to open up and say, okay, man, I was in 3 hell weeks and I got through 2 of them. You know, I was in Ranger School. I saw these beatings. My mom's soon-to-be husband got murdered. All these things I endured alone. I had to remind myself of the strength and the power that I have, that is in me. It's just a reminder of how badass you are in hard times, because, you know, we just forget that bad time consumes our mind. I see where I'm at today, but I know where I come from. I'm amazed at what a human being can actually do. So when I start talking to myself in the third person, it's strictly because I know that I literally made this human being out of a whole bunch of scraps. You know, I wasn't a mechanic. I wasn't a carpenter. So I didn't know how to do any of this. You know, I wasn't trained in how to build a human being from nothing. You know, like my mom didn't train me. My dad didn't train me. Life didn't train me. Well, life did train me, correction. And I started putting this scrap metal together. I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen. The mind always has the tactical advantage over you. Why is that? It knows your fears. It knows your insecurities. It knows where they're hiding. You're alone. You're alone. You may have a shrink you're going to. You may have a best friend you're going to. But there's 24 hours in the day where you're alone in this brain. And your brain is talking to you in all kinds of ways. And it wants to control you and pull you in these different pockets. If you can't control your own brain and your brain controls you, you got to tell your brain where you want to go and how you want to go and how you want to get there. You got to control it. If not, it's over. We have a lot more than we think we have. And all I did was I picked up that fucking shovel, and that shovel, I made my own path. And you may have big boulders, and they may be getting 200 miles up the road faster than you, but going through this path of life, this journey over here, there may be some days I get up with poopy pants, and I'm like, you know what, man? This, man, like, why am I having this such a structured life? Why? And I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I'm done with this shit. And I sit around and I say, okay, so you want to be normal. So you just want to be like everybody else that roams the world, not knowing the power that's in them, being fine with being mediocre. I'm like, fuck that, man. The worst thing that happened to me is I lost myself. I never had myself. I never found myself. I had no self-esteem. So I knew through working out and through learning, because it took a lot for me to learn also, I started finding self-esteem. Once I found that, that's when doors started opening up. I stopped caring about people, that what they thought, being judged. Wow, if I say this, if I started right now, are you gonna make fun of me? I stopped caring about that. And that's when my life started really changing for me, slowly but surely. I could barely read and write when I was in a junior in high school. I wasn't going anywhere. I was a character. I was trying to find myself through a character. I was making different hairstyles and sagging my pants, and I was off. I was off, man. I was a clown. I was a clown. And I was like, this is not where you're supposed to be in life, man. After a while, I started learning more and more and more through pain and suffering. I started learning so much about stuff. Before I knew it, man, I built this beautiful car. And I'm like, how did I do that? I know how to do it because I have all the tools. Through all the failure I went through trying to build this person who's Goggins. It's called raw accountability. Not just accountability where we find that nice happy word. If you're fat, you look in the mirror and you say, wow, I eat a little too much. No, you're fat. You cannot say that to yourself. You have to make a list of the things that you don't like to do. This list should be very long. Like if you don't like making calls, the very first thing you should do is start making a ton of calls. Because why? That begins to own you. You start to drive yourself this way versus this way. But you'll figure out, if you start making a whole bunch of calls, if you like calling, call a lot. Guess what happens? You get over it. So what we do a lot is, I heard a lot of people say, triple down on this, triple down on most of your strength. No. That works for a lot of things. But when you're afraid and you don't have the courage, you have to triple down on your weaknesses and make that become where you start to guide yourself. Okay, I don't like calling. Today I'm making 100 calls. I'm going to dial 100 times. What happens is, when I was younger, life and society made this big world with all these endless possibilities. My life made my possibilities this big because it made me afraid of all these different things. So all this stuff trapped my mind. It shackled my brain. It made me a prisoner within my own self, saying, this is all I can do. Because why? I'm afraid of this. I'm insecure over here. I got self-doubt over here. That behind me. Good Lord, who knows what's behind me? I'm not gonna look behind me. So your life is this big. Versus it being like, I can do all this shot here if I start to break down these walls and barriers. And that's what I started realizing. I could become a Navy SEAL. I could become this, but I was afraid of the water. Think about this. Why are you going to go be a Navy SEAL when all you do is play in the water? And we don't play, we're in it and we're living in it. So my mind is, I'm going to go be a Navy SEAL. If I didn't face that fear, no one would ever know me. I was number 3 behind Michelle Obama for a long time until my book sold out. And I was a guy just 21 years ago who was 300 pounds, could barely read and write, and now I have a book just 2 spots behind Michelle Obama. Just because I was afraid. But you overcome those fears, guess what happens? The whole world, you unlock this door and everything opens back up again. I once had that mentality that no one understands what the I'm going through. And if you keep that mentality, you're going to stay in the same exact spot that you're in. Everybody's going through. So when people get this mentality of like, you don't understand me, you can throw a rock to someone that can understand you if they're willing to break themselves down and stop hiding. A lot of people understand you, but you got to stop hiding. And then this guy was in my mind. We suffer every day. It's what we do. We do stuff that sucks every day. So then when the suck stuff comes, you're ready for it. And that's how I started coming up. I just started being very uncomfortable. And now it's like just a way of life. What I realized is for me to become the man I wanted to become, I saw myself as the weakest person God ever created. But I never blamed God for anything He did to me. So I wanted to change that to be the hardest man ever created. Am I that? I don't know, but you had to have a goal.
My part-time saver was me running like 50 amps week. What I used to do, I do now is I got to a point I be running. I was like, okay, man, we could do 10 millions today. I get to 10 millions like, oh no. This demon I let out morning that stand a night. He comes say no bit. Not today, man. There somebody out there that you don't know, have never meet in your inner life. That is doing 12, 130, 40. You are going to do another one, and when you meet him, you ants get ready. So the Goggins kept on running so that where the 40% thing comes in, it comes in when you are suffer mood and you say, I am not going to quit. You are forcing your brain. Now, options operating on leave it's not used to, but then it became used to it in time of need. Even the hard state person forget how bad bills they are. So I have been taught a lot of my life. Like when you are going thought I had time right now, you forget all the hard time you endure. So the cookie jar is a remains that oh I can get thought this.